Welcome to Speaking from Experience. My name is Rohan, and this is the weekly podcast where I talk about my experiences working in the digital marketing space over the last 10 years, and more importantly, over the last 1 year working at Google. I will talk about the ups and downs throughout my career, about love, relationships, family, money, and a whole lot more. So I really hope you enjoy the episodes you're going to hear. I have poured my heart and soul into them. If you do like the content, please share and subscribe to the podcast. Guys, welcome to today's episode. I know it's been a while since I last did one of these, but I just decided to take a couple of weeks off from podcasting as well as a bit of time off from work, actually, just so that I could recharge my batteries and give my 100% to the podcast. I think taking a break has definitely helped me to think about a few more ideas that I wanted to talk about, as well as take care of my mental health. So I did an episode 3 weeks ago about mental health, and I decided to follow a few tips that I had given in that episode just to unwind and de-stress. So today, following from that trend, and given that the pandemic situation hasn't really changed around the world, I wanted to talk about how you can make the most of the pandemic and make it work to your advantage. I often think about this time in everyone's life as the big reset. This is a once in 100-year event that we are probably, I wouldn't say lucky, but that we are witnessing right now with coronavirus. And I really do feel that instead of being sad about things that are happening around us, we should start to use this time to make improvements in our everyday life and make improvements to ourselves. But today I'll tell you 5 things that you can do to improve yourself during this big reset. Over the past 6 months or 8 months that we've been working from home, I'm sort of losing track, but basically from probably the beginning of March, from the time that we've been working from home, I personally have felt that I miss my colleagues and I haven't been able to have the same kind of rapport with them that I did when I was seeing them every day face to face, maybe having a coffee with them, or maybe having breakfast with them, or even sometimes going out for walks with them. I just haven't felt the same, and that is something that I have been trying to change over the last couple of months, and I have made more of an effort to actually connect with them on a more personal level, so that when I'm actually talking to them or asking them for something or helping them out with some task, it doesn't really just feel transactional. It's okay to have transactional relationships sometimes, but I guess if you're working with people day in, day out, it does definitely help to build that personal relationship. So one of the goals that I have had over the last month is to build deeper relationships. Now, the way I'm doing it is taking the first couple of minutes in a meeting to just connect with the person in the meeting one-on-one, asking them how their day has been, asking them about their family, and asking them how the lockdown is treating them. Sometimes, even just asking those questions can make the other person feel like you actually care about them. And that's invaluable. When someone does that to me, I am more likely to work a little harder for them, and I'm more likely to go out of my way to help them. So if you want to start building deeper relationships at work, just maybe take the first couple of minutes in a meeting to ask how everyone's day is going, because everyone's going through the same thing around the world. I've also signed up for something called a virtual coffee, where you can just dial in over video conferencing and enjoy a beverage together. It doesn't necessarily need to be coffee. It can be a beer, depending on the time of the day or the time of the week. But the whole idea is for you to connect with someone and for it not to be work related. So I would highly recommend just trying out this virtual coffee kind of setup to connect with people. One thing that I really enjoyed from one of the podcasts that I listened to was the whole idea of responding and following up, especially during this pandemic when you're not meeting people on a regular basis. So let's just say if you have sent an email to someone and you haven't heard back, it's really, really important that you follow up, because that shows that person that you care. And if someone sent you an email and you haven't responded for like 2 or 3 days, make sure you respond. And what I am genuinely trying to do in my own work life is improve the response time that I have for my clients and for my colleagues. I usually will try to respond to every email that I get within 24 to 48 hours, but I'm actually trying to reduce that even more. And even if I can't solve that issue right then and there, I'll just send an email saying, I will look into this and I will give them an estimate on when I will get back to them with a resolution. You can also use features in Gmail, like tasks and reminders, to help you to remember to reply to that email. Gmail also has features like Nudge, which reminds you to respond to an email after 2 or 3 days so that it doesn't completely fall off your radar. Outlook as well as Apple Mail have similar features, so use them to your advantage so that you can stay on top of your correspondence. The second thing that I'm going to talk about is actually something that I have been trying from the beginning of the lockdown. Actually, if I'm telling the truth, I've been trying it throughout my career and ever since I graduated from college. That is trying something new, because you may be enjoying where you are today and the job that you are in today, but the thing is, like, until and unless you start exploring other options, unless you start reading about new careers or just watching YouTube videos about careers, there's tons of resources on LinkedIn that talk about new and upcoming careers. You won't actually know what you are missing out or what you're even capable of. You might not be reaching your full potential at your current job. So it's very important to keep developing your skills and developing yourself. So my advice to you would be to use this pandemic period to try out something new, because this is one time where everyone is locked inside across the world. And that also gives us a lot more time to try out new stuff. It can be as simple as trying out cooking. You don't need to create chef quality food. It's just about getting out of your comfort zone and trying something new so that you can figure out whether you actually like that or not. The other thing you can do is you can sign up for a course on any of the websites like Coursera, Udacity, Udemy. There's tons of them out there. And just sign up for a course. If you've always wanted to learn programming like me, you can sign up for a boot camp. If you wanted to learn about cloud computing or cryptocurrencies, there are plenty of courses out there for whatever skills you want to learn. And I would highly recommend just starting one of the courses. If you don't like it at the end of the day, A lot of these courses are free. You can also learn a lot about these courses on YouTube, and a lot of that information is free as well. So there should be nothing stopping you from researching a new field or researching a new hobby. One thing that became very clear early on in the pandemic was that we were going to be stuck at home for a while, and it's varied across different countries and different continents and different households. It obviously depends on where you work and what you do. But very early on in the pandemic, my wife and I realized that we were going to be stuck in the house and we would have to work from home for a while. So what we did was that we invested in our work from home gear, because as we started working from home, we realized that we had really bad back issues. We also are probably more productive now that we have a proper desk, a chair, and monitors. I was fortunate enough that Google gave all its employees a grant that we could use to set up our home office. So I did use that to invest in a good monitor. I invested in the Apple trackpad, which has been a game changer because there's a lot of pressure on my hands from using a mouse day in, day out. And I can use all the fancy gesture features that I would not be able to use on a regular mouse. I've also invested in a really good chair. And because I'm spending a lot of time working, that chair has already paid itself back. Another thing that both me and my wife invested in was a standing desk, and that has definitely saved our backs quite a bit. So if you are in a situation where you are still working from your dining table or your sofa, I would highly suggest that you invest in your work from home gear, because it will make you a lot more productive and it will save you a trip or two to the physio or the chiropractor. Ever since the pandemic started, I started watching a lot of news and I started reading a lot of news articles. And unfortunately, all of the news nowadays seems to be negative. So what I started doing was that I replaced that with some financial news. I've always been keen to learn about finances, about the stock market, about investments, and I've always wanted to improve myself and my personal finances, because I have always been one of those people who have attracted debt. So I've wanted to change that habit for a very, very long time. So I've taken this time to educate myself financially and watch some well-known people on YouTube to see how they make their investments. I've spent a lot of time watching interviews of hedge fund managers. I've read the SEC filings for a lot of the US based companies. And I also even signed up for a course in day trading. All of that combined has also made me a lot more informed about the stock market and about the current economic climate. I had signed up for an app called Raise. It was earlier called Acorns, which is basically a micro investment app and allows you to invest small sums of money into the stock market. And you don't necessarily have as much control on what stocks are being bought, but they give you a broad background on the categories that the stocks belong to. So I kind of wanted to change that, and I actually wanted to know where my money was being invested. So I took it upon myself to learn about each of those categories and each of the top performers in those categories. And what I started to do was I took a startup capital of $1,000 and I started to replicate what the app was doing just to see whether I can replicate their results and whether I can actually make a better profit than them. While it was a bit of a risk, I had already decided that even if I lose the $1,000, it would have just been in the name of learning. And if I did come out on top, I would have learned so much about the stock market that I would be confident enough to make investments on my own. So over the last 8 months or so, I have been actively trading, and I have used that $1,000 as startup capital to invest in high quality stocks. And while the investments on Raise are untouched, I will continue to invest in stocks by myself as well as on the app. So I would suggest take this time and look at your personal finances. If you want to just learn about finances, there's tons of resources out there. YouTube is probably your best bet. Otherwise, there's tons of free resources. Bloomberg is probably the best website where I've found a lot of financial tips. I also, on a regular basis, look at Yahoo Finance. So if you want to start off, you can start off on those websites as well. The last thing that I'm going to talk about today is probably the most important, and which is why I've left it for the end, is taking care of your health. Now, needless to say, we're in the middle of a pandemic. Everyone needs to wear a mask. Everyone needs to sanitize their hands and wash their hands as frequently as possible. But I think taking care of your health should be a no-brainer whether or not we're in a pandemic. So I would use this time to develop some habits that will continue to be with you beyond the pandemic. And these could be as simple as waking up early. That's not one of the things that I have been doing, and I'm not proud of that. But yeah, if waking up early is one of the habits that you have been trying to develop to take care of your health, this is a great time to actually start it, because you can wake up early and you can start your morning at your own pace, since a lot of us are not even commuting to work. So use this time to start to develop those healthy habits. I personally have started to work out a lot. I was dependent on going to the gym, and I was sort of obsessed with going to the gym, even if it was for like a 10-minute workout. I'm not healthy by any stretch of imagination, but I guess just the fact that I was going to the gym, and even if I was spending 10 minutes a day at the gym, I felt like I was healthy. So I wanted to kind of break that habit of being too dependent on the gym and actually see what I can do at home, given that we were going to not have access to the gyms for a while. So I've recently started running. I did start off with brisk walking, jogging, and then running. And this has obviously been in the works for a while, but this is a habit that I'm actually proud of developing during this time, because I've been overweight all my life, and running or even jogging has been very hard at times. So I'm actually happy that I've been able to train my body and increase my endurance level to a point where I can now run for about 15 to 20 minutes without stopping. But then on the flip side, I've always wanted to get a grasp on my diet. And while we have been consulting a dietitian, we have tried out tons of diets out there. That is one habit that is still a work in progress. And I am currently working on developing better eating habits and not eating so much junk food or fast food when we don't have time. We are trying to cook a lot more at home, and we do notice the difference when we cook fresh food versus just getting takeout or just eating a frozen meal. So that's one of the habits that I hope I'll be able to develop during this pandemic. Use this time to work on your health. It could be as simple as changing your diet, waking up early, even just going for a walk for 10 minutes if you're not currently doing any exercise will help you in the long run. All right, guys, that was it for today's episode. So to summarize, just remember to use the big reset or this lockdown time to develop some really good and healthy habits. The 5 things that you can do to develop these habits is 1, build a deeper connection with your colleagues so that you have more genuine relationships at work rather than just have transactional relationships at work. Number 2, make sure to try something new during this time, whether it's just cooking, baking, or even a new skill such as cloud computing or researching about blockchain. Just try something new and get out of your comfort zone, because you won't know whether you like that new thing until you try it. Number 3 would be to invest in your work from home gear, because a lot of us are going to be stuck in this situation for the foreseeable future, and your body will thank you if you invest in a good chair, a good table, and some good lighting. Number 4 is to make better financial decisions and to mostly get educated on how to manage your finances better during this time. This will pay you back in several years' time when this lockdown and this pandemic is long gone. Just ensure that you are getting the right advice for your finances and that you're talking to the right people during this time. And number 5 is the most important, and that is to take care of your health. Without your health, you can't do all of these other 4 points. So just ensure to eat healthy, exercise, and to give yourself a mental break, just like I did for the last couple of weeks, and come back a lot more recharged and refreshed. All right, experience seekers, that was it for today's episode. If you liked the content for today, please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And more importantly, spread the word, because the more number of people who listen to the podcast, the more motivated I am to smash out this amazing content.